Howdy folks. Yeah, it's Monday. Sorry, nothing I can do about that. But hopefully we can spend the next 20 minutes or so having a chat and take your mind off the fact that it's back to work for another week. Yes, it's another episode of Mingles with Jingles. Unfortunately, we are going to be starting this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles on something of a bummer. It's to do with one of the videos, one of the World of Warships videos that I uploaded last week, The Biggest Loser. There were a couple of players on the team in question who, how can we put this, appear to be suffering from a sudden rush of shit to the brain. Here's the thing, we all make mistakes, and I'm not just talking about playing games, just in general. None of us are immune to screwing up from time to time. God knows anybody who's watched any of my YouTube videos will be only too aware that it's a rare day indeed when I get absolutely everything right in one of my YouTube videos. In fact, it's become something of a meme, and poking fun at me anytime I misidentify a ship, a tank or an aircraft, or claim that a Kuchizov is a radar cruiser when, of course, it isn't. Yes, I saw the comments. Of course I saw the comments. I do read the comments. But if I say or do something stupid or laughable, well, then I deserve to be laughed at. There's a pretty clear pattern of cause and effect here. You do something criminal, you deserve to go to jail. You do something stupid in a game of World of Warships, well, best case scenario, both teams are going to be laughing their asses off at you. Worst case scenario, some people on those teams are going to be sharing that replay file around in order to bring your stupidity to the widest possible audience. And in a ranked battle in World of Warships last week, that's pretty much exactly what happened, although, well, a fairly large audience had already been reached because several hundred people witnessed to the events in the Biggest Loser video from last week in Flambass's Twitch livestream. And then, of course, I got a hold of the replay and I had a bloody good laugh at them as well. As did most of you. As you should, because they acted like bloody idiots. But that doesn't mean they're stupid. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that they had a sudden rush of shit to the brain during one ranked battle in a match of World of Warships. Beyond that, you know nothing about these people. I'll tell you what does make you a bad person. Sending PMs to these people via the World of Warships in-game private message system. Telling them what scrubs they are. Telling them to go and uninstall and go and play Tetris. That does make you a bad person. I mean, seriously, guys, this is just not cool. Not cool at all. Somebody does something stupid, funny, laughable, whatever, in an online game. Well, first of all, it's just an online game. Nobody's going to lose their job over it. Secondly, you know nothing whatsoever about that person. You don't know whether what they did was a result of their having to divide their attention between playing the game and dealing with something important at home. You don't know if it was because they're just actually a 5-year-old child and they're playing as best they can. You don't know if that person is suffering from some kind of mental or physical disability and is just trying to play the best they can. And you don't know if that person is otherwise a reasonably competent player and is just suffering from a sudden rush of shit to the brain. And it's the last point which I want to draw particular attention to, because if it can happen to them, it can happen to you as well. We all make mistakes. None of us are immune to cocking up from time to time. We all suffer from that sudden rush of shit to the brain when we're trying to show off and impress. In fact, you're about to see me pull off yet another epic Jingles landing while attempting to complete this food air transport mission. Go on, have a laugh. Why not? I deserve it. I did something stupid. I failed in spectacular fashion. I deserve to be laughed at. I'll guarantee you everybody who's played Ghost Recon Wildlands has crashed a plane at one point or another. And I'll guarantee you everybody who plays World of Tanks or World of Warships has done something spectacularly stupid at one point or another that cost their team the match. And if whatever it was that you did was spectacular enough or funny enough, in this day and age there is an excellent chance that it's going to make it on YouTube or a Twitch highlight or some form of social media, because that is just the world that we live in these days. And that's fine, because everybody screws up. And as long as all we're doing is having a good laugh at it, there's no harm done. But everybody screws up. That could be you next time. And I'm pretty sure you wouldn't appreciate the next time you log into World of Tanks or World of Warships, finding yourself faced with a deluge of private messages telling you what a scrub you are, telling you that you need to uninstall the game, telling you that you need to stick to Tetris, all the same tired old, unimaginative insults that you constantly see in in-game chat. But nobody deserves that. Well, some people do. We're going to be completely honest. There are people that just deliberately try to ruin the experience because, well, some men just want to watch the world burn. But most of the time, it's just an otherwise completely competent player who suffered from a sudden rush of shit to the brain. And that could be you next time. So just try to be cool about it. That's all I'm saying. In other news, you lot made me so proud last week. I am, of course, talking about my World of Tanks Try Hard 2 Try Harder video, where I highlighted the problem with overpowered premium tanks. I asked you to give the video a dislike if you agreed that the ship needs to stop. I thought at the time that I was asking for a lot. I cannot remember the exact numbers, but prior to this video going up, my two most disliked videos ever were... oh, what were they? One of them was my World of Warplanes review, which to date has received about 1,200 dislikes. And that's a lot. It's a lot for one of my videos. I can't remember what the other one was, but it had received 1,700 dislikes. So I thought, well, there's no chance that this video is going to get that many dislikes. So let's just try to make this my most disliked World of Tanks video. Boy, did I underestimate just how passionately you lot feel about World of Tanks and overpowered premiums. I'm looking at that video right now, and it's not far short of 20,000 dislikes. It's actually got 2,300 likes as well, which is, I don't know, bizarre. Maybe not everybody watched the video the whole way through, but I mean, holy shit. Right now, the exact number is 18,486 dislikes. That is just an absolutely off-the-charts level of viewer interaction. The video itself has received 90,000 views. There are 1,200 comments. And in total, nearly 20,000 combined likes and dislikes. Well, actually, no, over 20,000, nearly 21,000 combined likes and dislikes. That is a phenomenal level of viewer interaction on a YouTube video. Absolutely off the charts. It turns out that a lot of you do actually feel very, very strongly about the issue of overpowered premiums in World of Tanks. It got me thinking, actually, because we don't really have that problem in World of Warships. I mean, I'm not saying there are no overpowered ships in World of Warships. There definitely are. HMS Belfast, for example, premium tier 7 British light cruiser. The Belfast is definitely an overpowered ship, which is why it's no longer on sale. But it's not overpowered because it's impossible to kill. It's overpowered because in the hands of a competent captain who knows how to make the most of the various different consumables available on the ship, it's a very, very powerful ship. But anybody can kill it. It is just a light cruiser. In fact, you could kill the Belfast in a tier 1 cruiser if his attention was occupied and you hit him with enough high explosive shells. And in some of the tier 1 cruisers you wouldn't even have to hit it that often. The American tier 1 cruiser, for example, the USS Erie, it's armed with 152mm guns. They're the same caliber as the guns on the Belfast. It doesn't have as many of them, but every 6 seconds this thing could be parked behind an island while the Belfast is lit up, lobbing 4 152mm shells over the island into the Belfast superstructure, setting it on fire. A tier 1 cruiser could kill a tier 7 cruiser. That's not something you can say about a tier 1 tank versus a tier 7 tank. Not in World of Tanks, at least. Of course, that situation is never going to arise in World of Tanks. You're never going to find tier 1s fighting tier 7s outside of a training room. But you do find tier 4 tanks fighting tier 5 and 6 tanks, and some of those tier 5 and 6 tanks are the Japanese Super Heavy OI Experimental, or the KV-220. Tanks that a lot of those Tier 4 tanks are just physically incapable of doing any damage to. Or Tier 6 tanks, like the Cromwell, for example, coming up against Object 252Us and Defenders. Let's see a show of hands from all of the Tier 6 medium tank drivers that particular situation has worked out well for. Yeah, not too many of you. Ah, but Jingles, what about the E25? That's just like the Belfast. That was removed from sale because it was so overpowered. And it wasn't overpowered because nobody could kill it. Anybody that sees an E25 can kill an E25. It was overpowered because, in the hands of a competent player who knew how to use it to its strengths, it was a supremely powerful unit. And they removed that from sale. Well, good for them. But it's not the ones that they removed from sale that are the issue. It's all of the tanks that can't be killed by the kind of tanks that are regularly going to face it, that still remain on sale. That's the issue, and that's what's pissing everybody off, if the amount of dislikes on my Try Hard to Try Harder video are anything to go by. So why do we have this in World of Tanks and we don't have it in World of Warships? I think I know the answer. I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm going to run this up the flagpole and see who salutes. Now, bear in mind, I have absolutely no numbers whatsoever to back up anything that you're about to hear. Right? This is basically just me guessing, based on the behaviour that I'm witnessing from Wargaming when it comes to World of Tanks. I believe that World of Tanks has peaked. And what I mean by that is, it's not growing. And what I mean by that is, yeah, sure, there are new players coming in. But I believe there are probably just as many old players throwing their hands up in disgust and saying, yeah, fuck this, I'm out. So the overall player base isn't growing. I believe that's almost certainly true on the EU server. I believe it's probably true on the Russian server. I haven't got a clue about the Asian server. The North American server may still be regarded as something of a growth market for Wargaming. I know 2 years ago that is how they looked at the North American server. Still plenty of room for growth there. That may still be the case, but again, I don't know. I don't actually have any numbers to support this speculation. But it would explain what we're seeing in World of Tanks with all of these premiums. Because if you're not bringing in more players than you're losing, how do you increase your profit margin in an online free-to-play game? You sell premiums. And it doesn't really matter if some of those premiums are considered overpowered and tend to divide the community, because you've been selling them for years and your numbers may not be going up, but they're not going down either. People keep buying them. People keep running into them in battle, have no idea how to kill them other than by pressing their 2 key, which of course costs them a huge amount of in-game credits. So they're going to buy premium account time in order to sustain the repeated pressing of the 2 key, or they're just going to go out and buy one of those overpowered premiums themselves. And now they're happy for 2 reasons. One, everybody else is finding it increasingly difficult to kill them without pressing their 2 key, and they now have a credit farming monster, an overpowered tier 8 premium that just basically shits money. Why do we not see this in World of Warships? Well, you could argue that we do. World of Warships has the tier 9 premiums, not the tier 8s. Ships like the Missouri, the Kronstadt, the Stalingrad. What's the other one? The Musashi. I mean, you're never going to lose money playing one of these ships. They do earn a phenomenal amount of credits, the USS Missouri in particular. But nobody can just turn up at the premium shop, flash their credit card, and buy themselves a Missouri, or a Kronstadt, or a Stalingrad, or a Musashi. You have to earn these ships by playing the game. There are other ships in the arsenal, which was a relatively new innovation in World of Warships. Ships like the Salem, which is basically a tier 10, effectively premium version of the existing American tier 10 heavy cruiser, the Des Moines. And that can only be bought with currency that you earn while playing the game. You can't go to the premium shop in World of Warships and buy any of these in-game currencies. You have to play the game in order to get these ships. And there's no premium ammunition in World of Warships either. It doesn't need to be, because any ship in World of Warships is theoretically capable of sinking any other ship in World of Warships. There are premium consumables. There are signal flags that do give you an in-game advantage. And yeah, if you want to, you can go to the premium shop in World of Warships and you can buy a crate of signal flags. But I've certainly never needed to do that, and I'm just a casual World of Warships player. I'm not a professional live streamer like Flamu or Flambas, who basically play World of Warships for a living, and play for hours and hours and hours, and can play dozens of battles per day. I'm strictly a casual World of Warships player. And yet, just by playing the game, I'm able to earn more than enough premium consumables and signal flags just from completing combat missions and campaigns while playing, that I've never needed to go to the premium shop and actually hand over any money for them. So why is it that you have this one company, Wargaming, who have two games that are very similar to each other, World of Tanks and World of Warships, and yet they have what appears to be such a radically different approach to how they handle their players? Well, I think there are two reasons for this, and I've already touched on one of them. I don't believe that World of Tanks is really growing anymore. It may not be in decline. I honestly have no idea. It may be in decline, I don't know. But I'm pretty sure that it's no longer a growth market, if you like, for Wargaming. It's still bringing in plenty of money, because they're milking it for all it's worth. And yet they're not doing that for World of Warships. I never feel as if I need to spend any money when I'm playing World of Warships. I'm not saying I don't spend money on World of Warships, I most certainly do. But any time I put my hand in my pocket in World of Warships, it's because there's something that I feel I want. Not because there's something that I feel I need. And anybody who finds themselves pressing the 2 key in World of Tanks just to be able to inflict any kind of damage on a tank 2 tiers higher than them, 1 tier higher than them, the same tier as them, or hell, even a lower tier than them, cannot say the same thing about World of Tanks. I have spent a lot of money on World of Tanks. I've spent far more money on World of Tanks than I have on World of Warships. And at first, it was for the same reasons as I currently spend money on World of Warships. Not because I felt like I needed to, but because I loved the game, I enjoyed playing it, and there were things in the game that I wanted to get. Not because I felt like I needed to get them in order to be competitive. But I haven't felt that way about World of Tanks in a long time. And you could argue that there are missions available in World of Tanks that will allow you to get all the same kind of things in World of Tanks as you can currently get just by playing the game in World of Warships as well. And that may be technically true, but, well, let me just give you an example. I was watching Quickie Baby live streaming World of Tanks last week, and I can't remember exactly which mission it was he was trying to complete. But in order to complete this mission, he had to stun 2 enemy vehicles at the same time, which basically meant he had to play artillery. The problem was that the technicalities of the specific mission that he was trying to complete with honours in order to get whatever it was he was doing done was that you were only allowed to play, I think it was French, Italian, Polish, Swedish or Czechoslovakian machines. And none of them have artillery except for the French. And of all the nations in the game that have artillery, the French artillery is known for having the smallest splash damage radius. So it was as if the developers had specifically gone out of their way to piss as many people off as possible in order to get this mission completed with honours. You just don't get that in World of Warships. It's such a radically different design philosophy. I mean, yeah, you've got campaign arcs in World of Warships. You've got missions that must be completed. Except you don't have to complete every specific mission. Instead, there are a certain number of stars that you need to obtain in order to activate the final task of any given stage of a campaign. How you earn those stars is entirely up to you. If there are missions that award stars and require you to play an aircraft carrier, and you don't like playing aircraft carriers, then just don't pick those missions. Pick the ones where you have to play cruisers or destroyers or battleships. And you can redo the missions. You won't earn the reward for the mission again, but you'll still get the stars, so you can unlock the final mission in the campaign and move on to the next step. It never makes you play things that you don't want to play. Isn't that... I don't understand. I would have assumed that that was such a basic design philosophy step. Let people play the bloody game the way they want to. Don't force them to play in a way that they don't want to, because that's how you've decided something should be done. I don't know. Is it just me? Maybe it's just me. Well, no, it can't be just me, because World of Warships doesn't do this. So why is it that we've got these two radically different ways of treating your players in two titles from the same company? Well, reason number one. World of Warships, unlike World of Tanks, is at the beginning, not the end, of its growth cycle. It is, in my opinion at least, a much more pleasant playing experience than World of Tanks. I mean, even if you enjoy the gameplay mechanics of both games, World of Warships just doesn't treat you like a resource to be milked for every last dollar out of your pocket in the way that, for a couple of years now, I really do feel World of Tanks has been. And the other reason for why I think you've got such radically different ways of treating your players in two relatively similar titles from the same company is because World of Tanks is developed in-house by Wargaming. World of Warships isn't. It's developed by Leicester Studios in St. Petersburg. Now, they're owned by Wargaming, but they're not Wargaming. And you can't help but notice a stark difference in philosophies between World of Tanks and World of Warships, particularly when it comes to how the two games interact with their communities. Because World of Tanks basically doesn't. I mean, sure, there's a World of Tanks EU community team, there's a World of Tanks North America community team, the same for Russia, the same for Asia, so on and so on. But these are PR people, these aren't game developers. The game developers are in Minsk. When was the last time you interacted directly with any of them? When was the last time you saw anything from them? I know that they certainly used to do Q&As, at least on Russian social media, but I can't remember the last time I saw any of that. Generally speaking, if you're hearing anything from World of Tanks, it's not actually the World of Tanks developers that you're hearing from. It's the community team, who exist as a level of insulation between the community and the developers. You don't get that in World of Warships. I mean, right now I couldn't name you a single member of the World of Tanks development team. I'm sure that information is out there somewhere, but I'd have to go digging for it. I'd have to go to Status Report or the Armoured Patrol or one of the World of Tanks blogs and dig through the articles in order to find out the names of anybody who's currently working on the development team of World of Tanks. But I'm fairly confident that any of you out there who play World of Warships, even casually, would recognise Sub-Octavian, Caligula, maybe even Valeria, because they're all over the World of Warships portal, with various different articles, Q&As, videos. And these are the game developers. These aren't PR people. These are the World of Warships developers interacting directly with you, the community. Something that you just don't seem to see in World of Tanks anymore. Here's a little experiment for you. Go to the World of Tanks portal. Have a look at the news articles. And I'll guarantee you that in any given month, 60 to 70% of all of the news articles that appear are not actually news articles. They're just adverts for premium vehicles or packages or special offers or just new and interesting ways for you to spend money in the premium shop. Now do the same thing with the World of Warships portal. It's not that World of Warships doesn't have premium ships that they'd be delighted to sell to you. They certainly do. They've got a lot of premium ships that I'm sure they'd be only too happy if you would decide to put your hand in your pocket and shell out some cash for. But if you do have a look at the World of Warships portal, the difference between that and the World of Tanks portal are like night and day. World of Tanks portal, 60 to 70% of all of these supposed news articles are basically just adverts for various different things on sale in the premium shop. Meanwhile, on the World of Warships portal, of the last 24 news articles that appeared, only 3 were adverts for the premium shop. The other 21 were actually news articles. Developer diaries, historical articles on naval aviation and German naval camouflage schemes, posts introducing the European livestream team, posts announcing giveaways to mark the World of Warships 3rd anniversary. There's even a video up there from the developers explaining exactly how the spotting system works. Yeah, I know. Technically, the game's reached its 3rd anniversary, but, well, that includes the time spent in closed alpha and closed beta. World of Tanks has been around the best part of 10 years now, and there are still people been playing the game for years who have no idea how the spotting system works. So, yeah. 2 games, both superficially similar as far as the game mechanics are concerned, both owned by the same company, but not developed by the same company. One, almost certainly at the end of its growth cycle, if not in decline, I don't know, where the developers try to keep that pesky community at arm's length as much as possible, insulating themselves behind a community team in the various different regional offices. Another, just starting out, still with plenty of space to grow, where the community team are the developers and they can't get enough of interacting with the community. And I really do think it shows. Anyway, we're nearly done, but I do still have time to answer some questions. These questions, by the way, come from the Salt Mines Discord. There's a channel there specifically for posting questions for Mingles with Jingles. It's called, funnily enough, Mingle with the Jingles. And these are some of the questions that you guys have been posing to me in the week since the last episode of Mingles with Jingles. Cool X117, I suspect maybe from Australia. This was... I need to put this question into some kind of perspective. Last week, I did a Casual Saturday video on Victory at Sea Pacific, where I appeared to allow the Imperial Japanese Empire to invade and occupy Darwin in Australia. Cool X117 says, "Yo, Jingles, I accept your apology for being shit and letting Australia get invaded." Well, thank you, that's very generous of you. I will try not to be so shit in future. Droid V8 wanted to know, how much did my first computer cost? The first computer I ever owned was a Commodore Amiga 500. And I actually got my first computer quite late. I've actually talked about this before, but obviously Droid V8 was unaware of this. I got my first computer after returning from the First Gulf War, which was my first deployment in the Royal Navy. I was 21 years old before I had my first computer, and the reason for that is because we were dirt poor growing up and we just couldn't afford that sort of thing. Home computers were actually quite well, they're still quite expensive now, but they were, yeah, you needed to be at least middle class in order to be able to afford a home computer back in those days. It was certainly well outside of our price range. I had a bunch of friends who had home computers like the Commodore 64 and whatever the Atari competitor was. I can't remember. But yeah, I actually got into home computing quite late. 21 years old, just back from the First Gulf War, with plenty of money saved up because, well, there wasn't a lot of opportunity during wartime to go ashore and piss it all away. And so I got myself a Commodore Amiga 500. It was actually several years before I got my first PC. The Amiga was far superior to PCs at the time. I mean, just in sound capabilities alone. There was an early sound card from a company called Adlib, and it was terrible. I mean, most PC games, and it was expensive as well, so most PC games only used the onboard bleeper. Do you know what that is? You know when you boot your PC up and it kind of bleeps at you? Yeah, that was your PC sound card back in the day. It's no wonder that so many people bought Atari STs or Commodore Amigas instead. But the first PC I actually bought was purely and simply so I could play X-Wing from LucasArts, or Lucasfilm games as they were back in the day. It was originally supposed to be coming out on the Commodore Amiga as well, but then for some reason Lucasfilm Games cancelled it and made it a PC-only release. And that's when I bought my first PC, because I absolutely had to play that game, and it was fantastic. Although it wasn't as good as the sequel, TIE Fighter, which was even better, because you got to play for the baddies. And they had British accents. Anyway, next question. Firestreak wanted to know, I've been wanting to make some form of a work of art for you, however I need to know what your favourite animal is. This would be a huge help, but if you're too busy, I understand. This server is unbelievably busy after all, thank you in advance. Well, that's got to be the dog, really. Yeah, that's really no contest whatsoever. Dogs are awesome. I think dogs are fantastic. Don't tell Rita, of course. I mean, I love her cats, I really do. Juicy is just an angel. She really is the perfect cat. I mean, she's an utter idiot, but she's so calm and gentle. Little Crystalline, took 3 years for that cat to not hate me, but through 3 years of basically being patient with her, she actually really likes me a lot now, and she's great as well. And I do love Rita's cats. I mean, they're both fantastic, but I'm definitely a dog lover. So yeah, dogs. Dogs are just awesome. Next up, Takru said, Jingles, you mentioned there are a bunch of games you play, but they're not really interesting to watch in a video. Why not make a video showcasing a select few of those games, giving each a few minutes on screen just to showcase what else is catching your eye? Since a lot of your viewers are picking up games you suggested, for example on Casual Saturday, people might be interested in less visually impressive games too. You know what, Takru, that's actually a really good idea. Because there's a whole bunch of... I mean, anybody on the Discord server can see exactly what games I happen to be playing at any given time. And there are a whole bunch of stuff that... Well, there's no way I could make a full YouTube video out of, but that's not a bad suggestion. Because there are many games that I do actually play fairly regularly, which I've never, ever featured on YouTube. But maybe... Well, I suppose I could do a video, maybe a 20-minute Casual Saturday video where I show 5 minutes of the best bits, for example, each of 4 different games that I actually tend to play on quite a semi-regular basis, but which I'd never dream of putting into a YouTube video. Yeah, you know, that's not a bad idea, Takru. I think I'm going to do that. It might not be in time for this week's Casual Saturday, but it's definitely, yeah, not a bad idea. Well suggested. Thank you very much. Next question came from Bean I 5003. This is actually a question that seems to pop up every now and then. Jingles, since you like MMOs, and I do like MMOs, have you ever thought about playing EVE Online? Oh, the EVE Online question. I have played EVE Online, and it is amazing. But the last time I played EVE Online, I don't even know when it was. Okay, let me think about this. I played EVE Online while I was working at Fort Blockhouse in the Royal Navy. Now, I was at Fort Blockhouse for about 2 years. And I think from there I deployed down to the Falklands for 6 months. And from there I went to... I forget the name of the place, but it was some agency in the dockyard in Portsmouth. And I was there for about a year and a half. And then from there I joined HMS Manchester, which was a Type 42 destroyer, and served on that for a year and a half. And then from there I went to the Admiralty Interview Board in Portsmouth, and I was there for 2 years, and then I retired from the Navy, and that, the retiring from the Navy part, was 7 years ago. So that gives you some idea of how long it is since I played EVE Online, and I've no doubt that it's changed probably quite a lot in however long that was. But the thing about EVE Online, which was true then, and is still true today, is that it's not a game, it's a way of life. And while I do enjoy playing my MMOs, there just isn't enough time in the day for me to be anything other than a casual MMO player. And I'm fine with that, but here's the thing about EVE Online. There's no such thing as a casual EVE Online player. Right? You either commit or you don't play it. And EVE Online is definitely one hamster wheel that I am in no rush whatsoever to get back into. Not because it's a bad game, no, quite the opposite. But because there just aren't enough hours in the day for me to play it. One final thing that I'd like to bring to everybody's attention before we put this episode of Mingles with Jingles to bed. The Salt Mines Discord owner, Grumper Salty, has a friend called Jordan. And Jordan is basically in the shit. He's recently lost his job, and his wife has health issues, which means she's unable to work. And if they can't raise money for their rent, food, water and electricity by the end of the month, they're looking at being thrown out onto the street. So to put it pretty bluntly, Jordan could use our help. And I thought I would mention his situation in this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles because, well, he's one of my minions. He's one of us. So there is a link down below in the video description to Jordan's GoFundMe, where he's trying to raise the amount of money that he actually needs to stay in his home for another month while he looks for a job. In fact, at the time of posting the GoFundMe, Jordan may have started a new job on September the 11th. But the first paycheck wouldn't come in until the middle of October, at which point the landlord will have already thrown them out onto the street for missing September's rent. So I'm sure that Jordan and his wife would be very grateful for any donations, large or small. And on the off chance that they do manage to exceed the $1,000 GoFundMe total that they've set, Jordan's going to give away any excess money to other families in similar situations who have similar GoFundMes. So that's Jordan from Thornton, Illinois. We'd rather not have him on the streets. Any donation would be most gratefully received. And that's pretty much it for this week's episode of Mingles with Jingles. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's given you something to think about and possibly discuss in the comments down below. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.